So, with that, I'll be hosting another fireside chat, and that is one that I've been personally very, very excited, as this is a topic very dear to my heart. I'm gonna talk about building mission-driven companies that impact a billion plus people with David Gorodyansky. Please welcome David.
Hi, Philip. Great to see you.
Great to see you again. That is a beautiful background. That could be almost a virtual background. I believe that's your real background, however, isn't it?
That is real. That is real. This is in San Diego, California.
All right. I'm a little bit jealous now, I have to say. But weather in Singapore is not that different, to be fair. So it could be very similar.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
so
really nice here.
So I want to just say a few words. I'll let you introduce yourself, but I wanted to say, to set the context for the audience, that I'm super, super excited about having this chat, because I think when David and I had a prep call, I learned that we had a very, very similar inspiration. So we had both been inspired by Muhammad Yunus, who is, for those of you who don't know him, he's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And the guy who basically invented microcredits and has lifted millions of people out of poverty. And I think when David told me his story, it resonated very strongly with myself on how he has been inspired by Yunus that he had a chance to meet. But I'd love to have David tell his own story a little bit. So tell us, David, what got you to where you are now, that you're trying to build mission-driven companies that impact a billion plus people?
Thanks, Philip. And yeah, I'm really glad to be here. And I love the fact that we're so global here. For me, it's actually quite simple. I've always thought that the most valuable thing we have in our lives is our youth and our time and our energy. And so it makes sense to use it in a way that's essentially impacting people in a real way and solving really important problems. When you look at a total addressable market for a business, most people are just hey, how much money is there in this market? The way I look at it is, is this market big enough where you can create real change that will transform society and will move humanity forward in a real way? And so, what inspires me is are there ways to solve real world problems that affect billions of people? Because, I think the best way to build a great business is to help millions or billions of people.
Yes. And what we shared also in our call, right? I think with AnchorFree, you have built a business that exactly does both of that, right? You've built a business that has been sold for $310 million after raising $65 million from Goldman Sachs. And you've built the world's largest consumer VPN, but you've also done great social good. I think the story that you told, how your product has been used to create and foster freedom in Iraq was fantastic. Do you want to share that with your audience? Because I think that's a great inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So I founded AnchorFree when I was 24 years old, and I was fairly naive and idealistic. Hopefully I still am a little bit. And I wanted to do something that was going to transform the lives of billions of people. And basically we took this technology called VPN, which was at the time mostly used by enterprises, and we consumerized it. We made a super fast, very easy to use consumer VPN for security and privacy and internet freedom. And what was fascinating is that people from developing countries, Egypt, Turkey, different parts of the Middle East, adopted our app Hotspot Shield in massive scale. So we would have 1 million Egyptians download us overnight during the Arab Spring. We'd have 2 million people in Turkey download us in a couple of days when Turkey blocked access to Twitter to get around the block and get to a free and open internet in Turkey. In Iraq, recently, the government blocked access to social media and news, and we had a few million Iraqis download our app within a week. And once that happened, actually people started creating graffiti with our logo on the streets of Baghdad so that other people would find out how do you get around censorship, how do you protect your data, and you use this app called Hotspot Shield. And the interesting thing is we became very big first in emerging markets, and then we became big in the US, which is, became our number one country eventually, where privacy and security became very big issues. And for me, it was very important to make the app free so that, everyone could use it. And we had a freemium business model where, you could use it for free, but people paid us a subscription for certain premium features. And that was like important to the mission of enabling every person in the world with internet freedom and privacy, even those that couldn't pay us. Anyways, as you mentioned, we raised about 63 million for the business, and we sold it for over 300 million. So I'm no longer running it, but it was an amazing experience. And then I kind of went on with the same philosophy to work on things that can have a billion-person impact. And co-founded a company called Globin, which is an e-commerce marketplace connecting people from developing markets that produce handmade goods to U.S. consumers that want to buy ethically sourced handmade products versus things made in sweatshops. And a lot of U.S. consumers right now are aligning their values with the way they spend money, and essentially want to buy things that are ethical, handmade, and so on. So Globin has had like tremendous success in 50 plus countries where people have been able to live themselves out of poverty, like thousands of people, build homes for their kids, send their kids to school, and so on, thanks to being able to sell on the Globin platform.
Yeah, I mean, I see this like every day in Southeast Asia, that entrepreneurship like is not only at the level that you're practicing it, but like for the average person on the street that has like a small shop producing some goods and being able to sell this to an international market. But like we've seen a lot of that in like China, where like Alibaba has been like a marketplace where like hundreds of thousands and millions of people could suddenly make a living from that. So I strongly second what you said, like the power through entrepreneurship to empower them to make a living in a fair and humane way is so important. And I see this in Southeast Asia, where I spend my days now, like every single day. So given that our conference, while it's still virtual and people from everywhere can come and join, our focus is still, of course, like Romania and Cluj. And I would love to see like what is your angle on building like the successful companies that you have from like Silicon Valley versus doing the same thing in Romania. So do you think like somebody from Romania can build a company that impacts 1 billion people globally?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one of my key partners when I was running AnchorFree was Bitdefender, which is a Romanian company. We were big partners on security, big partners. And I have a lot of respect. Great company. So absolutely. Look, I think we just had a previous session about remote work. Clearly, I think you can build a global company from Romania or really from anywhere in the world. I don't think you have to be in Silicon Valley. And by the way, I got to say my opinion on this topic sort of changed over the years, because when I was building AnchorFree, like 90% of my employees, or maybe even 99%, were in Silicon Valley. All in one office in Silicon Valley. All of our investors were there. All of our employees, everyone was in one place. And back then, I thought it's very important for the culture of the company to have all the employees in one place. Then I've sort of evolved my thinking, and I don't think that today. Clearly with the pandemic and so on, we see people working very efficiently from all around the world, and remote teams work, and we have these great conferences on Zoom, and they're very effective. And as a matter of fact, I was thinking back, I used to travel so much, and I would fly in for conferences like this, to Tokyo, to Europe, all over the place. And, everybody would be so jet lagged. And now we can have this conversation and nobody's jet lagged. It's amazing. But I'll tell you, I had dinner a few years ago with Jack Dorsey, who's the CEO of Twitter and the CEO of Square. And this was a few years before this pandemic happened. And nobody really, remote work wasn't as big as it is today. And he asked me, he's like, look, I'm thinking maybe I have, more than 10,000 employees. Maybe they could all work remotely at Twitter and Square. And for me at the time, that sounded like a crazy idea. He's like, "What do you think? Would that work?" And I thought, not really. Like you need to have the culture. You need to have everyone in one office. Well, anyways, I've evolved my thinking since then. I think he was right. And obviously, I think today you can have people that are remote and be very efficient. You also have all these tools that have evolved, right? We didn't really have Zoom and we didn't have other things before. So, but anyways, I do think today you can totally build a great global business that changes the world from Romania. And I'm very glad my friends at Bitdefender have done that.
That is amazing and like very very true. I think it very well aligns with our topic, like Textilvania beyond borders, which we see more and more, right? Like what you said, like a lot of us didn't believe like 3 to 5 years ago it's possible, but now it's like been demonstrated over and over again, and hopefully that is a great inspiration for our audience to really not be restricted by their location wherever they may be. Um, then I want to dive into another topic, right? So we have like Bill Gates is now the greatest philanthropist in the world, but he's been very like renowned for being one of the most ruthless businessmen before that. So oftentimes, like we see like a pattern that somebody is like a super brutal businessman, and sometimes like later in their life they develop a conscience. So I want to ask you. I mean, you have had like a great amount of success. What did lead you to all of this? Did you have like a social mission to start with, or did this like evolve after you got successful and you wanted to have an impact?
No, I had a social mission like all my life. So when I was growing up, I was really inspired by my grandparents who both fought in World War II and helped defeat the Nazis. And I was thinking, what am I going to do in my life that's going to be that impactful? And then in college, to your point, I met my our common hero Muhammad Yunus, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 for getting 100 million people out of poverty through microlending. And I thought, wow, this guy is amazing. He's using business as a tool to solve real world problems for millions of people. And so for me, it was always sort of mission and purpose first. And, it's interesting. A lot of people could tell you what they do, but not everyone can tell you why they do it. Why is it important? And for me, the why was always more important than the what. If I was got a medical degree, I probably would have gotten to be a doctor and found mission and purpose in that. If I would know how to create art, maybe I'd be an artist and would find mission and purpose in inspiring people through art. But growing up in Silicon Valley and being an entrepreneur, I found the ability to impact people and solve real world problems for millions of people through entrepreneurship. I think really creating something is an amazing feeling. When something doesn't exist and you create it from scratch and then it inspires millions of people. But creating something that is truly important to a billion people or more is even greater. And that's, my hope today is that we can inspire more and more entrepreneurs to really work on billion-person problems.
Maybe I'll add one. I totally.
Yeah. We I don't know if you see this. I meet people in Silicon Valley all the time who are incredibly smart, but are working on things that don't matter. I don't know if you see that, but I see that all the time. You meet incredibly smart people who are excited because they're working on Uber for picking up your dry cleaning, or Uber for walking your dog, or an iPhone game. And you're like, if these people who are truly intelligent and really smart would apply their intelligence to solving some of the greatest problems in the world, like clean drinking water, healthcare, mental health, etc., we can have a way better world, and these people can make the same or greater profits and returns than if they build an app for walking your dog. And that's what my hope is, that we can inspire people to do that.
Yes. So when I moved it was like 5-6 years ago to Silicon Valley, I was initially quite disillusioned, right? Like I was hoping that like everybody there wants to change the world and build the next big thing. And I've seen like a lot of MBAs who just want to make the next $1 billion project without really caring if it's just like an ed tech startup that's exploiting like whatever it can. Then yeah, I can like totally resonate with what you're saying, that a lot of people could put their brains to doing something important than just making money. And they still could make a lot of money by doing that, right? Like, so I think it doesn't need to be mutually
Absolutely.
exclusive, but we have one life to live. So spending it well and building something that you can be proud of after you put in like 5 to 10 years of your lifetime building it, is certainly something that I wish more people would put on. Yeah, and I think also
Exactly.
what you said, right? Like having like as a benchmark to fight in World War II and freeing the world. I think that's definitely a tough benchmark to beat. So I get that was very inspirational. Um,
Absolutely.
all right, so with that, I think like what I'd love to understand a little bit more and dive into is, so how do you pick a great idea to focus on? What do you know what it is that really matters that you want to spend your time on?
Yeah. So it really depends on what an entrepreneur is passionate about, right? But I think you kind of have to start with the thinking of like something very basic. What is a major problem in the world that's not being addressed today, and why is it not being addressed? What is that problem that you may know something about? Maybe you're an expert in the space, maybe, or maybe you're not, but you'd like to learn, right? But it all starts with just like understanding what is a big problem affecting 1 billion people or more that's not being addressed by entrepreneurs, by venture capital, and it's just not being addressed. And can we build a company to address that problem? And maybe I'll give you a few examples of companies that I think are addressing that problem, are addressing billion-person problems, and have chosen to work on challenges that are really, really important to the world. Because people always ask me, like, when I talk about this, so what are some examples, right? And so just to give you some examples, like I like an Israeli company called Orcam, which makes products for the blind. By the way, almost every company I'm going to mention is worth more than $500 million. So just to be clear, I'm mentioning companies that are solving important global problems, addressing a lot of people, having a real impact on society, that are all worth more than $500 million, right? To the point that you can make a change in the world and you can make a lot of money, right? So Orcam, Israeli company making products to help the blind, and they are worth, I think, over 600 million. Coursera, which I'm sure everyone knows, helping spread education. As a matter of fact, I think 25% of people that learn on Coursera today are in emerging markets, specifically in Africa and Asia, where these people never had a chance to get that level of education or that level of quality of content that they can get on Coursera, that they're getting on Coursera today. There's a company called Zero Mass Water that makes devices that turn air into clean drinking water. There's a number of companies that are dealing with teleconferencing with doctors and teleconferencing around mental health. There's security companies that are dealing with cybersecurity, like Bitdefender in Romania. There's Modern Meadow, which I'm actually an investor in, which takes stem cells of cows and grows meat and leather in their lab to basically produce leather that can be used like for leather seats in cars and so on. I think Tesla's going to use them for their leather seats in the Tesla cars without ever killing cows or not needing to grow that many cows. So those are just some examples, but like these entrepreneurs have said, look, here's a really important global problem, whether it's like helping create clean drinking water out of air, or helping spread education to emerging markets, or helping the blind, whatever that big problem is that people are really passionate about. Here's a real problem that we can go address. And these companies have built, in some cases, like Coursera, they're worth $1.5 billion, right? In other cases, most of the companies I mentioned are worth more than $500 million, and some are worth over $1 billion. These entrepreneurs have said, we're going to go change the world for real. And focus on mission and focus on purpose and build like companies that are worth billions of dollars. But the starting point is, what is a problem addressing billions of people that we can go solve? And why is this important? right? That's not what are we doing, but why are we doing it? That is the key here. There's a company that I always use as an example called Zynga. They make virtual games, virtual farms and games, producing zero value for the world, probably negative value because they're wasting people's time, right? So this company, it's like an example. If you're an entrepreneur, you're gonna go spend like 10 years of your life and devote your life completely, like weekdays, weekends, holidays. You're going to devote your life, probably at the expense of your personal life and other things, to building your business. Do you want to devote your life to selling, virtual cows in a game like Zynga, or do you want to devote 10 years of your life towards spreading education to the world like Coursera? Like, what do you want to do? Both companies are worth over $1 billion. What do you want to do? Do you want to, waste people's time, or do you want to spread education to the masses? I think the answer is very clear. You want to do what's important.
You definitely sold me. I don't want to do virtual cows in my life ever. So that's
Right?
pretty clear. And
Yep.
especially of Orcam, I'm a big fan. I mean, their founder, like Amnon Shashua, is like one of the most amazing people in the field of like computer vision. And he previously founded like Mobileye, which he sold for, I don't know, it was like 16 or 18 billion to Intel. So I think that he's like one of the key inventors of self-driving cars, that he's now doing like, after he makes car see, he makes like humans that are blind see. Quite remarkable, and like one of the most forward thinkers. And I'm so glad that he's putting that to good use. So that is like all very powerful examples that hopefully can help our audience to see in what various fields, from education to computer vision, it is possible to have a large impact. So with that,
Absolutely.
David, and in closing, I would love you to like summarize like what is like one advice that you would give for the audience to live by.
Uh, you know, kind of, I mentioned the fact that you sort of focus on solving really important billion-person problems. Focus on the why, not the what. Have a real purpose and mission. I think one additional thing that I learned over my career is to stay very loyal to your dream and your mission, but don't stay loyal to the business plan. Like, be super flexible, because the business plan can evolve and change and pivot based on user feedback, based on what people, how people want to use your products. So, I don't think it makes sense to be stubborn about the way you get your dream. I think you have to be stubborn about staying loyal to the dream, but be very flexible on the path to get there.
That is a very wise advice that I hope a lot of people will live by. So for our audience, David is going to be in the Q&A session, so you can ask him more follow-up questions there on the Q&A stage. So with that, I really want to thank you from my heart. It has been an inspirational chat for me. I hope once all of things blows over, we can have a in-person coffee. So, and hopefully you can come and visit us in Cluj, also physically at like one of our next events once traveling is possible again. Thank you so much,
I would
David,
love
for
that.
being with us
Thank you,
here.
Phil. Thank you.